Hello, friends. We did it. Opening day of the 2025 NFL season is today. And for the first time here at Spike Week, we're diving in fully to week one. We're going to go game by game, breaking down everything you need to know from a DFS perspective with some bets mixed in, maybe some start sit decisions. Your home league, you got to make decisions. Every game, we're going to walk through it and talk about the most notable things and those top DFS plays and bets and what you need to know for your fantasy leagues in week one here with the first edition of the Spike Week Blueprint. Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, liftoff.
GM, as everyone likes to say. It's week one. We're all excited. That's all you can think about when you're on this side of the screen or whatever. You just want to say, week one is here. It's week one. We're so excited. It's week one. Thank you, Chef, for the question. I want to start there. We're going to go game by game, talk about the DFS slate, talk about some of our favorite bets here at Spike Week. You can get access to the full portfolio of all of our content. The written DFS blueprint is out for week one. The underdog battle royale rankings are out. We have a futures blueprint is out with all of our favorite futures, and props, pick'em, and bets for week one are to come later this afternoon. We got college football, we got NBA, we got all of the different stuff. But on this show, every single week, what we're going to do is go game by game through the weekly slate, talk about all the most important things. Again, for a lot of it'll, be setting your DFS lineups, but your season-long lineups. And how does this matter for your best ball teams that you drafted all summer? Some of the favorite bets, so we can all sweat some of that stuff out. You want to put together a pick'em ticket. But if you have questions, Chef just posted a question in the chat. If you have questions, I don't care what it is. Yeah, we put out a Survivor video the other day, myself and Rob. You want to have some questions about Survivor? You want a take on who to start in your flex? Who should you drop in your season-long league? You want, the last play into your DFS lineup? Whatever. Bring the questions on. That's what we're here for. I'm here to talk to you guys. We're gonna have some fun. It's absolutely possible that the instant redraft question is a bit, but it's okay. That's what we're here to do. Let's go ahead and answer the question because it's funny. Amen. Pi, Nolan, everybody, welcome. Trade Tia and Monty for London. The answer is instantly yes. Instantly yes. Your wide receivers are Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Keon Coleman, DJ Moore, and you have Derrick Henry and Ashton Genty plus Bill plus Judkins, Scattaboo, Tank. Yes, slam dunk. Run to the podium. Go get yourself some Drake London. He will get discussed today quite a bit, I'm sure, once we get to the Atlanta Falcons games. Super last quick bit of housekeeping. Obviously, hit like and subscribe, all that fun stuff on your way in. If you have not subscribed to Spike Week Premium, right, on the website, you subscribe to the YouTube channel, but if you're not subscribed to the website, you get absolutely everything that we do. Something I'm excited for this year. So why I'm excited to do like this show and talk about the DFS slate and betting picks and redraft and Survivor and everything is for $39.99 a month or $200 for the entire year. You get absolutely everything that we do at Spike Week. Of course, we focus very heavily on the best ball space. So you get our tools, the Draft Hacker, Draft IQ, Tournament DB, all these different tools that we built for best ball, our rankings, our strategy content and everything. But in season, you don't have to pay another fee to now come get DFS content or come get the battle royale in place. We do NBA, we do college football, we do wait till March Madness gets here. We got March Madness. We'll do it all here, and we're trying to keep it to be reasonable for everybody. $39.99 a month. I feel is reasonable. But if you just want to hang out with the fellow sickos, we're really nerds. We call ourselves best ball sickos, but we're really nerds. It's $5 a month to join the Discord. There's a link in the description to the Discord. It will allow you to join for free. But if you would like to join all of the premium channels, there's like a ton of channels that you won't see when you hop in there right now. You just go to the website, go to premium or subscribe or the menu header and click the Discord only option. And that's just $5 a month. So trying to keep it cheap for all of the folks I know that it's not cheap to be paying for sims and rankings and ownership projections and all that different kind of stuff. We're trying to keep it so everybody can enjoy their best ball, roll it into DFS and betting and everything, and we can keep it all under one subscription. How do you feel about the cheap quarterbacks for DraftKings this week? So this is a really interesting, this is the perfect segue, Shuby, thank you. So we're going to give a quick week one slate overview is where we're going to start. And this is a pretty good like introduction to the week one slate, not just for DFS purposes, right? But for everything, for your home leagues, for your betting picks, your pick'ems, your props, your absolutely anything. Survivor. If you have a take that you believe the market is wrong about, there is no better time. And now I'm not saying that this is what you're saying should be, but there is no better time to come in and say, IKB, I know better about this situation. The market is saying, we'll talk about some of my favorites, right? In this, and I'm sure you guys can probably guess them from if you've been following from the best ball summer. But I have a handful of situations that I'm specifically focusing on in week one. Not even because I'm saying I know better, but because what we stand to gain if the field is wrong about certain situations and how they have them projected and how often they're going to play certain individual players. If we think that there's a potential that they're wrong, even if it's not, but there's a potential that they're wrong, then the upside is like, what do we win when this thing is wrong? Buddy, week one is the time. Week two is like also interestingly a really good time where everyone just looks at what happened in week one. The first couple of weeks of the season is the perfect time to pile into some situations that especially we as best ball players, as season-long players who've been studying this stuff for months, we know the depth charts, we know who got cut, we know who's third string, we know who has been running with the ones, we know all of that stuff because we've been following it. Week one is precisely when we should try to use that to our advantage. It doesn't always work out, but that's exactly the time when the people who show up, a lot of the DFS players, a lot of your opponents in your season-long leagues, a lot of the opponents in your survivor leagues or whatever, aren't following. They're not grinding July training camp highlights and clips and targets and all that different kind of stuff. They don't know that Drake London, was getting every target for Michael Penix in practice all summer. They don't know that. They just show up and they're ready to roll in week one. So do guys like Joe Flacco and Danny Dimes have enough upside to consider in tournaments? If you believe so, sure. I am not sold on Dimes specifically. So it's obviously going to be a case by case basis. I think any quarterback, including Joe Flacco, against the Cincinnati Bengals has enough upside in tournaments. I'm not saying I'm going to play Joe Flacco. I think it's a very fair point from Bree that says he's heard Flacco come up in every DFS show for week one. I'm not sure that he'll be 20+%, but that's just splitting hairs because quarterbacks don't really get generally to be that popular in tournaments. But my overall stance is like, if you really want, if you think like I do that the Bengals defense is as bad as we think it's going to be, and not just that, but that the offense obviously is going to be awesome, and it is what I'll continue to call this Coors Field of the NFL, of fantasy football. That's what the Bengals are. Frankly, that's probably what the Cowboys will be tonight for the Eagles. If you feel that way, let it rip, man. The quarterback position, to continue a little bit of an overview, we don't have, so this is not a season-long thing to consider, but we don't have on the DFS slate, the main slate on Sunday for DraftKings and FanDuel, we don't have the most of the best fantasy quarterbacks. Hurts and Dak go tonight. Mahomes and Herbert go tomorrow. Monday night, not that these guys are fitting into that, but there's no Caleb and JJ McCarthy. And then there's no Lamar and Allen because they're Sunday night. So we really have Daniels and Burrow at the top end of the fantasy quarterback spectrum. And then a bunch of like mush in the middle. So I'm not sure that there's anybody. Like I said, I'm not as excited for Daniel Jones as some of the projections seem to be. But I do think that if you like him more than I do, or you like any of these other guys that we'll definitely touch on, Joe Flacco being one of them. Of course, Trevor Lawrence is going to be popular. But if you prefer the other side with a Bryce Young or a Drake May or a Geno Smith or a Russell Wilson or any of those guys, play them, because this is the week. Not only is it possible that we're all just wrong about how much upside those guys have? Probably not so much. Flacco and Jones in a vacuum, though Flacco gets a great spot. Daniel Jones gets a good spot too. How I'm attacking the Colts is a little bit different. But there's not much opportunity cost. Jaden Daniels is clearly opportunity cost, as is Joe Burrow, but they're also pretty expensive. Joe Burrow, not really a runner. Jaden Daniels, I don't think the Jaden Daniels matchup is that great. I think the Giants defense is going to be solid. So it's not one of those types of situations where it's like, oh my God, this is Jaden Daniels against the Bengals. He's the one elite fantasy quarterback. Do we just play him? It's not that. So I think the world is your oyster at the quarterback position this week, for sure. May seems very underpriced on FanDuel. I think that is for sure. And Charles, we will get to it. He says you're telling us to play Dylan Sampson in week 1. What I want to do here is go ahead, and we're gonna bounce back and forth a little bit from screen to screen. Let's show this fella. Yeah, so we're going to go back and forth a little bit from screen to screen. Of course, this is I did just post our main futures, a futures blueprint, if you will, up on the site for subscribers. So if you want to, before the game gets started tonight, if you want to dabble in a couple of futures, and then we'll have props and bets and everything up later this afternoon. So I've got the DFS slate pulled up here, and we're going to bounce back and forth between a little bit of just kind of the betting view. I think is a good one to give a quick overview, and then we'll bounce to the DFS side of things, bounce around a little bit, because I think that there's a lot of relevant different little details that we can pull from a bunch of different situations. So I do like to use our good friends over at Scores and Odds. I have an affiliation with them, so naturally that is what I'm using. But let's go ahead and get it started so we can get this in. If we want to do, put together a pick'em slip or something after the show is over, we can do that. Put together a DFS team, we can do that. But we got 16 games to get through, and you guys know that's not going to be a short adventure for someone like myself. Cowboys Eagles tonight. This one's really simple. I bet the Eagles already. I still prefer. Now, granted, I bet the Eagles at the open at -7. I still prefer the Eagles at -8.5. My general stance is the Cowboys are, again, very similar to the Bengals in a Coors Field of football perspective. Their defense is going to be terrible. It was going to be bad with Micah Parsons. Now they don't have Micah Parsons. So I think the Cowboys defense is going to be bad. I think the Eagles are going to score as many points as they would like to in this game. No injuries really on either side. If you had any concerns about the A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, whatever. Nope, all good. I will say all of my and our bets, picks, props, pick 'em, everything will be posted in the blueprint on the site for subscribers every single week. But I'll certainly give away some of my favorites here. And I don't think anyone would be shocked to hear that if I pull down outside of the Eagles, if I go check out some rushing yardage props, and I quickly scroll down a little bit to one Wild Bill Shipley, it opened at 9.5, I believe. But 9.5 is still available. 9.5 rushing yards at Bet365. If you get on one of the pick'em sites, it's more like 11.5, 12.5. I'm still betting it, man. My stance is that the Eagles are going to roll. The Eagles are going to win by a significant amount. That it's week 1, and Will Shipley is the backup to Saquon Barkley. If we get a little bit of garbage time, if we get a little bit of, he could be playing in the 2-minute drill, what have you. I just, as you see on Scores and Odds, he's projected for 16 rushing yards. So still a nice value. From a DFS perspective, I'll always be honest with you guys about what I do and don't know. Showdown, I've not been a successful showdowns. Exactly. 9.5. Bet365 for 9.5. But yeah, like underdog and stuff, I think it's like 11.5, 12.5. but you bet your ass we'll still be including that Will Shipley on our pick'em slip. But not an absolute showdown wizard. My entire plan is Will Shipley is $2,000 on DraftKings. I'm going to have some fun on the opening slate and just lock Will Shipley in however many lineups that I play, jam in the studs around him, and have some fun. That's just my personal take. I think you can play. I think the field is going to play a lot of the Eagles, like Eagles onslaughts, 4-2 Eagles, 5-1 Eagles. And I think if the Cowboys are going to be losing by a bunch, doesn't mean you have to play Dak, but I think the guys are going to catch a lot of passes. And that's really good, right? For showdown on DraftKings. So that's my general take. Other than I'm going to have some fun rocking Will Shipley, I do think the Cowboys are a little bit probably undervalued in showdown tonight. Chiefs Chargers tomorrow night in wherever the heck it is, not this country. Shout out Peter Overzet, our best ball prince, crushing it over going to be on YouTube, helping with the broadcast. I'm sure everyone will be tuned in, but in case you aren't, make sure you check out Pete tomorrow on that. It's super awesome. Another one where, it's a showdown slate, not one that I'm going to be super gravitating to. However, something that it's like grown on me a little bit over the last little bit, like after Rashawn Slater got hurt, the left tackle for the Chargers, like one of the best left tackles in the NFL, a key cog for the Chargers offense. I've been a little skittish on the Chargers heading into this year. I'm excited for them, but can they overcome the Chiefs? Are they better than the Broncos? I'm not sure about that. Are they a good team? Absolutely. Are they? I kind of, May, June was like, oh man, I think the Chargers are going to be one of my teams, if not my team. I don't root for a team. I'm from St. Louis. I have my Rams ripped away from me at the peak of my football fandom when I was falling in love with the game of football. So I've refused to become a fan. I'm absolutely not doing a bandwagon Chiefs thing. So, I'm always looking for an individual team each season to sort of root for. And the Chargers were potentially on that list. And no. Now I think I'm just going to pass on there. So it was just a slight lean to the Chiefs, though they have their own share of problems with Rasheed and all of that. I will say, from a showdown perspective, no Rasheed, no Jalen Royals. There's obviously going to be plenty of opportunity for Chiefs pass catchers in this game. I think Isaiah Pacheco is interesting, though uninspiring from a showdown perspective. And speaking of you can do whatever you want, right? Play whoever you want. Our good friend Jordan Cooper in the Chiefs and Chargers. I think you can absolutely just play really whoever you want in the showdown contest. My favorite play is probably going to be Tyquan Thornton. I know that sounds insane. Like it sounds absolutely insane. I don't think they got receiving yardage up for him yet. Let's double check. They didn't yesterday. I keep checking. I keep waiting for Tyquan Thornton receiving yards. They have Juju, which I actually think the Juju over is quite fine as well. But I am waiting for a Tyquan Thornton line. He is plus 900 to score a touchdown on here somewhere. Plus 900 at FanDuel. Anytime touchdown, Tyquan Thornton. I'm not kidding. This is not a bit. I am pretty sure that Tyquan Thornton is going to play like the Justin Watson role, at least until Rasheed comes back, and maybe thereafter. I genuinely think he's going to be in that like Justin Watson role. Now, that's not awesome, but being out there with Patrick Mahomes running a lot of routes and happening to run a 4.2 40, he was really popping in camp. Like Justin Watson never popped in camp like that. He was just like old, reliable. I just think he's a little bit undervalued. As you see, 900 plus 900 at FanDuel, down at other books more in the 500, 600 range. So I can't believe that we are 20 minutes into the very first show, this new blueprint show, and we're touting Tyquan Thornton and Will Shipley. But, most of the best bets, in my opinion, are never the like sexy ones. It's over 9.5 rushing yards. It's under 25 rushing yards. It's a long shot touchdown. Do Does the long shot touchdown generally hit? No, it's a long shot for a reason, but I think it's mispriced, basically, is what I'm saying. And there's not a lot you'll see in the touchdown markets. There's not a lot of underpriced touchdown props. There can be misvalued rushing, receiving, passing, whatever stuff, because they just have, the market has misvalued or misjudged that player's role. But there's not a lot of, because it's juice to the gills, right? So it's tough to find a 9-1 touchdown score that actually looks good and might run all of the routes. What channel can we watch Pete on, or is it YouTube Live? I'll be honest, I assume it's just YouTube. Yeah, whatever. The game is being broadcast on YouTube. I know that. I just assume that's what it is. I haven't looked into it. We've been flying by the seat of our pants trying to get ready for week 1 here. So I you have to ask Pete. I'm sure he's on later today. I think he's having those guys on, Derek Carr and Brandon Marshall and stuff, which is pretty cool. A little pregame show for best ball. At 80-1, 2 touchdowns. Okay. This is not financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to bet 2 touchdowns. Will Shipley. I'm not even necessarily telling you to bet 1, but 2 touchdowns Will Shipley would be hilarious. I do like the 8-1 a little bit. I'd argue that Joe Alt played left tackle in college, and the depth they have on the offensive line will keep the offense. It'll definitely keep the offense viable. Absolutely. Joe Alt is banged up, I believe. I thought that Joe Alt was dealing with his own little nicks and bruises, but not important. But you get the point. I totally agree. My statement was not to say that the Chargers are not going to be viable, but part of one of the reasons why we loved them is they had 2 tackles, right? Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. That would be awesome. And if we remove one of those guys, it hurts. It just hurts a little bit. All right. Now we're going to be getting into both the main slate here and the DFS slate. Let me move my head out of the way. This one's quick and easy because this one's really easy for me. I'm not even going to pull up the DFS slate on this one. Steelers go to the Jets. I am anti both of these teams in fantasy this year. The total is 38.5. Going to be probably the lowest scoring game of the day. Certainly projects to be. 2 run-heavy teams, right? We have Aaron Rodgers paired with Arthur Smith and Justin Fields with Aaron Glenn and the triumvirate of Jets running backs that they appear to be using. I did bet the Jets early. Just full transparency. I'm kind of fading the Steelers this year. Famous last words, fading the Steelers never works. Backing the Jets never works. But like I said, I'm not even going to put, this is one of there's so many guys you can play. There's so many guys you could start in your season long. Like if you have Garrett Wilson, if you have Breece Hall, you probably unfortunately just have to start those guys. If you're in an absolute pinch and you need to start, Pat Freiermuth, you have a 0 running back team and need to start Jaylen Warren, sure, of course, right? Braylon Allen, sure. If you have nothing else. But from a DFS perspective, I just X this one out, man. Move on to the next. It's week 1. And that means there's so many good plays, especially on FanDuel. This is also the case for DraftKings. But on FanDuel, it's damn near a play whoever you want for the opening DFS slate. And I should have mentioned this before. Even if you don't play on FanDuel, their $5 Sunday Million, which is $1 million to first place, is risk-free. Meaning every entry you play that does not cash. So let's say you play 10 teams into the Sunday Million. You only cash 1. For those 9 that didn't cash, they give you $45 back in site credit. So you would have to then play next week, of course, or play Sunday Night Showdown or play Monday Night Showdown or play whatever. You have to play it still. But I mean, that's the best offer we've gotten in DFS in a long time. It's risk-free, right? You get a second chance no matter what happens. And even if you win the million, let's say you enter 10 teams, you win the million with one of them, and the other 9 don't cash, you still get that $45 back. So you'll get $1,045,000 It's like it's absolutely risk-free. You get the money back no matter if you for every losing entry, no matter what. And you still get to keep your winnings, right? If you cash. So of course I play a little bit more on DraftKings. I'm going to try to play a little bit more on FanDuel this year. And week 1, I'm definitely going to be playing on FanDuel. And the big deal there that everyone needs to know, like the slate overview is essentially it's week 1. Don't be afraid to fade the chalk. Don't be afraid to like lean into your convictions. Even if you pull up the projections and the projections aren't agreeing with your convictions, don't be afraid to play it before you see it. Right? That the projections are going to naturally neuter Dylan Sampson and Harold Fannin and the rookies, Torrey Horton, and like all of those guys are going to get neutered in the projections, as they should. That's how it works. But we want everyone else to be playing that guy next week at high ownership because he went off this week at low ownership. And we want to be the ones that played him at low ownership. That's the week 1 general thesis. And on FanDuel, the pricing is even looser than on DraftKings. And it's already very loose on DraftKings. You'll see it. It's insane. I mean, Ashton Genty is $6,000. There's like all these wide receivers, Pearsall and T-Mac and whatever in the $5,000 range. There's really not very many spend ups. The expensive tight ends are really only around $6,000. It's very easy to fit whoever you want. So something to consider on FanDuel. Do you use an optimizer when maxing tournaments? I do. I don't max very often. I'm more of a 1 to 5 lineup player. And that dwindles down. I play more at the beginning and fewer, and usually just like one team later in the season. When I do play more, in not even just maxing, right? But I play, 50, 100 or whatever. I do use an optimizer, and then I will make some. I will still sometimes make some tweaks, especially like in a single entry team, or I'll still play some of the smaller field stuff. I'll make some minor tweaks. The optimizer doesn't always give you exactly what you want, which is sometimes is a good thing. But that's I will use I work for, obviously, Spike Week is my baby. This is what I do for a living, but I also do DFS work for Roto Grinders. And I host the Sunday morning show on Roto Grinders with Neil Lorfield. If you come from the best ball streets, Neil. And Jordan Vanek this year. Cody says Pete has an upcoming video on his channel for the deal with. There go the dogs. They heard Pete. They're excited for Pete, I guess. That's what it is. Probably a smart move from FanDuel. First time playing on it in 5 years. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I go back and forth. I've had a little more baseball success on FanDuel over the last couple of years, so I've played there a little bit more. But then football, I have had like no success on. Well, I've had a couple of successful, showings on FanDuel, but it's very up and down because I don't spend enough time doing it, and I really need to dedicate more time to doing it. All right. On to the next. We got the Steelers and Jets out of the way. Absolutely gross Steelers Jets. Next, Dolphins Colts. Now this one is about the opposite of Steelers Jets. Super quick. We'll run it down. 47.5 total. Colts favored by 1.5. One thing I'll say, I'm going to give a lot of my right. If we're talking about the convictions, the things we feel coming into week 1, I'm going to pass mine along. You can take them, leave them, throw them in the trash, whatever you want to do with them. One of my takes, and as you can imagine, being a best ball sicko over the summer, and seeing all of the vibes out of Miami and just how bad they are, with the cherry on top of Tyreek Hill not being named a captain for week 1, I'm fading the Dolphins coming in to this game. I don't think you necessarily have to bet this game, but what does that mean from a props and DFS perspective? Let's really quickly look at some of the props. The rushing yards, Jonathan Taylor, which of course you see looks good in projections too. You can get as low as 76.5 at Prize Picks. Bet Rivers, 77.5 at Bet365, 78.5 at FanDuel. Jonathan Taylor is arguably my flag plant of week 1. it's a combination of I think the Dolphins defense is going to stink, and fading the Dolphins on the road, week 1, right? Jonathan Taylor. I think that they're just going to load him up with touches. So I bet this over, and Jonathan Taylor is one of, if not my favorite DFS play of the week. Depending upon the site that you are on, you'll see him lagging a little bit behind in ownership. And let's look at that specifically at the running back position. If I go over to RotoGrinders, this is their optimizer lineup HQ. You will see at the top of ownership, Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, Devon Achane, Ashton Genty, James Conner, Bucky Irving, right? Josh Jacobs. And then we finally get to Jonathan Taylor. He is 6,800 over here. I should have had FanDuel pulled up, but we can bounce back and forth. Let's go to actually, let's go to this because this is really helpful. We do have our very first DFS tool out there. It's called the DFS Ownership Visualizer. As you can see here, all you have to do, and I did this morning, is take whatever your, so you can do this after a contest is over and analyze what the field did using a contest CSV. But we have it just set up for DraftKings right now. If you grab, you use an optimizer and you spit out the teams, it'll give you a CSV, right? And then you go to upload lineups. All I did was go to lineup HQ for RotoGrinders and did nothing essentially. They make you remove a couple players. So I removed a couple guys with basically no projection from the CSV. And then it's so spit out the top 150 teams. I just wanted to see what they would say is like, here's what the top 150 teams look like. And then I can visualize it a little bit better with this tool where this is, I have it filtered for running backs. But when we go to all, you'll see like very quickly, okay, this is the first sign of A, Jamar Chase is a really good play, and B, it's really easy to afford him. You see some of the most expensive guys popping with a lot of ownership. Let's look at quarterback really quickly. It's all Jaden Daniels and Trevor Lawrence. You don't see other guys on here, do you? There's no other. I don't believe any of the other quarterbacks popped into the top 150. But at the running back position, you will also see very quickly 0 Jonathan Taylor in the top 150 optimals. You get Achane, you get Chase Brown, you get even a couple of Genties, James Conner, Christian McCaffrey, right? But no Gibbs, no Jonathan Taylor. So if they're not showing up, now I didn't put any restrictions, right? I literally just ran it. Just give me the top 150. I'm not putting any rules into place here. That's what you see. You'll see Jonathan Taylor not popping at all. And I think that's wrong. I think Daniel Jones at quarterback gives him a little bit better pass catching floor, right? Anthony Richardson versus Daniel Jones. It's not Joe Flacco. He's not going to be he's not going to be Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield or Devon Achane or something like that as a pass catcher. But I think this is the spot for JT. If you want, Daniel Jones is, if we go to the quarterback position, Daniel Jones is showing up as 4th highest owned quarterback. So the field, it's kind of a little double whammy with JT. The field is getting more to Daniel Jones, though I'm not really sure what Colts pass catchers they're getting to with him. Nobody. Tyler Warren is so popular. So it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure that I believe the Daniel Jones ownership. Are people really going to play naked Daniel Jones in week 1? That seems unlikely, but my IKB of this game is Jonathan Taylor. I will say the Dolphins are appealing. I think you can play Achane, though I'm a little bit concerned about the goal line role. All you heard all summer, part of why Tyreek Hill's probably not a captain, is he was complaining about the guys getting the goal line role. But I think it's possible that Ollie Gordon steals those goal line touches from Achane, which would be bad. Not that he can't score. Of course he can, and he's going to catch plenty of passes. He's a very good play. No denying that. But the wide receivers are going to be quite low owned. If you really want to take a dive on Tyreek Hill, go for it. He's going to be low owned. If you want to take a dive on Jalen Waddle, my honestly favorite punt, there are some good punts, and I don't think you need it on this slate. But if you want it, Malik Washington took over that starting slot receiver job, was awesome during the preseason. If you remember, the Dolphins lost Johnny Smith. they added Darren Waller, who, of course, hilariously did not practice yesterday. And even if he plays in week 1, I don't suspect that Darren Waller is going to be like a hugely impactful guy. He's barely been, he's been retired for a year and barely practiced with the team over the course of the summer. So who takes with Tyreek also? Tyreek has also missed a huge portion of the offseason. So who's going to step up and take the BS, right? Underneath, catch a 5-yard hitch and do some stuff with the ball in your hands. Who's going to take that? That's what Jonnu was crushing with. And is Tyreek slow to get there? I think Malik is the guy who fills that role. And so if you believe that the Colts are going to kind of play with a lead here, force the Dolphins into throwing the ball, of course, Achane is good. Of course, Waddle is good. Tyreek, if you believe it. But I think the sneaky like Millie Maker tournament plays Malik. Washington. New Dolphins tight end 1, Greg Dulcich erasure. That's so funny. The fact that Darren, we don't even RG doesn't even have him in the projections. I think get ready to learn Julian Hill, Darren Waller drafters like me who autoed him in a DraftKings 555, of course. But just sign me up obviously for Jonathan Taylor and there's a lot of good plays in that game, no doubt. A good question. Where's this one up on the list? Not up yet. OSS, is Leggett a good pivot off of Ibuka? So we can just jump over here really quickly from a projected ownership perspective. As you see, of course, BTJ at the top and very close to Brian Thomas Jr. is everyone's favorite rookie, Emeka Ibuka. And I get it, man. He's 4,600. Chris Godwin isn't going to play. Jalen McMillan isn't going to play. Kate Otten is hurt / maybe going to play, not going to play. It's an exciting game in a dome at Atlanta. One of the more fun games on the slate. I understand. Ibuka is a really, really good play. But it's week 1. There's a lot of really, really good plays. You know who also benefited from these types of injuries like you're talking about? Xavier Leggett. Jalen Coker, right? Adam Thielen traded, Jalen Coker hurt. Hunter Renfrow is now going to be in the slot. People are going to play Teteroa McMillan. He is up here on this ownership as well. 4th highest owned wide receiver. People are going to play T-Mac. People are going to play Ibuka. So you could play Leggett at a similar price, a little bit cheaper, and get kind of a double whammy there of if it's Leggett instead of T-Mac and Leggett beats Ibuka, you're passing a lot of teams for sure. So I absolutely think that is viable. We will get to this, D. Owens, because I'm with you. I'm very much with you. Shout out TJ. Morning. Tyreek does hit this is 100% true. I don't think I can do it. And I'm fully admitting to being a sissy boy and probably a little bit of a hypocrite. It's just, it also does play into my Dolphins are cooked concept, which that's not contrarian. But he says Tyreek does hit the what do you win when you win window pretty well. He absolutely does. Absolutely does. I promise we'll get to Nico when we get to that game. I want to because I want to include it in the total view of that game. But I will say I love Nico Collins as a football player. I'm lighter on him this week relative to a lot of the other wide receivers. BTJ and Puka, right? Another one that Tim is mentioning. Shocking ownership. And Lil Dodger says Pearsall seems like a great pivot. I straight up prefer Pearsall to Ibuka. Pearsall is not low owned, right? They're all up. He's up here 5th, so which is pretty close. I think Pearsall is going to be pretty popular, but there's also 3 popular 49ers: Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Ricky Pearsall. Jawan Jennings is going to play in week 1, so maybe that brings down Pearsall's ownership a little bit, and I do still like him, and that would also then, like you said, make him a good pivot off of Ibuka. All right, what is a lot of people's game of the week? The Xavier Leggett from the Xavier Leggett question. Carolina goes to Jacksonville, kind of the bad team shootout, but they're both like, are they going to be better this year? They might be better this year. Panthers at Jags. I get it. I got no issues with anybody that wants to play this game. However, it's a little bit tricky because it's certainly going to be, arguably the most popular one of the most popular games for sure. Trevor Lawrence, as you saw, was the only other quarterback making optimals as of the last time I ran this. So he's going to be quite popular. I don't really worry that much about the quarterback ownership, but Brian Thomas Jr. is the most popular wide receiver as well. So what do we, how do we navigate that? Of course, there are ways that we can play those guys and still play a good team, right? Of course, play whoever you want, but just something to consider. If you play a Lawrence BTJ stack with T-Mac on the other side, you're probably, playing into some chalk. I think Brenton Strange will pick up some ownership at the tight end position. And I understand nobody wants to play the running backs, but the running backs are not going to get any ownership. They probably shouldn't because it's two committees. The Panthers signed Rico Dowdle and drafted Trevor Etienne. I don't think he's going to play in week 1. But former Bulldog Trevor Etienne, the dog. Hey, what are we howling for? What? They like Trevor Etienne. They must be related to Gretsch, I guess, over here. But this game's going to be popular, right? Rightfully so. So how we navigate it's not, I don't think you should remove it from your boards by any stretch of the imagination. One thing I am doing with this game a little bit more so is if you play on the draft formats, so underdog, battle royales, or drafters, I like it a little bit better over there because like Trevor Lawrence isn't even drafted in every single draft on underdog. You can play it like a super flex. Drafters has a super flex weekly tournament. Whale or the shark. They have a whale and a shark. I can't remember which one is which, but you can like play it over there at like slightly lesser ownership and pretty good prices where, everybody's just clicking the guy at the top of the list in the drafts. Whereas on DraftKings and FanDuel with salary caps, it's a little bit different. And those guys are going to be, basically the most popular plays of the slate. Lawrence up there other than Jaden Daniels. So no like mega takes on this game. I think it's a really, really good game. I think if you want to play it, I think if you have guys in this game from a season-long perspective, you should play them. But as you see, we have a bunch of guys catching some ownership, even down to I like Jatavian Sanders and Brenton Strange as punt tight ends, as you might expect to have another punt tight end that I quite like. But these two guys are going to run a lot of routes in this game. And so at 2,900 and 3,300, they do make for standouts. I do think an interesting way to play this game in tournaments. Yeah, that's really, really funny. Yeah, exactly. Week 1, baby. Week 1. I told you when you show up on a week 1 show, all you hear every single tout or streamer or whatever is going to be like, it's week 1. Week 1 is here. Finally, we did it. Yeah. And the dogs are doing the same thing. Now I don't remember where I was going with that. If you want to play this game, I think one of the best ways to do it is to kind of like make sure you like game stack it because everybody's going to play into it and maybe add something in here that, no one's going to play Travis Hunter. No one's going to play De'Ami Brown and no one's going to play Xavier Legette, as you see down here. I would make those guys a priority if I'm playing this game. And they can be priorities in your tournament pool anyway. But when anyone plays this game, they're going to play the Lawrence to BTJ. Then maybe they'll play T-Mac. Maybe they'll play one of the tight ends. And I think those guys are all good plays. But how do you attack it a little bit differently? Well, Xavier Legette also really benefits from the Panther situation and this game environment. And so do Travis Hunter, who, by the way, Travis Hunter listed as a starting wide receiver in week 1 and a backup corner. So it's a depth chart. Who the hell knows what that means? But again, Travis Hunter makes for one of those. Everybody's going to play Ibuka. Some people are going to play Pearsall. People are going to play T-Mac. He's in that 5K range as another guy that if he's running, what if he's just playing full-time offense and a little sprinkle of defense in week 1? That makes him pretty appealing for tournaments. And then again, Xavier Legette. And I know that they traded for Tim Patrick, but I think De'Ami Brown's going to run all the routes, and he had done so in the preseason as wide receiver 3. Not that super exciting, but there's other options in this game that you can play that I think will be low owned, but I would be very smart about how I kind of deployed my guys in this game. I am using DraftKings here, but the overwhelming majority of these takes are the same as FanDuel. The one thing we'll talk about probably at the end with FanDuel is you don't need to go too crazy with like all of your different correlations. You can, and I still want to stack. I still want to do stuff like that on FanDuel. But man, the pricing is so bad. You can, if you're playing a really poorly projected lineup, like I don't know where that bar is, but there's a certain level to where you're giving up too many points. You can say, I know better, but you still, even if you like boosted, so like when we get to Dylan Sampson in a minute, obviously I'm more of a believer in Dylan Sampson than the projections are. Mary Kay Cabot's full of shit with this Jerome Ford stuff is my take. If I'm wrong, so be it. If I'm right, I'm getting a way under projected, both ownership and points, guy against in this Bengals matchup. But even if I boost Dylan Sampson's projection a little bit, I want to make sure that I'm not like playing something absolutely ridiculous, like playing De'Ami Brown and I'm doing a Lawrence, De'Ami, BTJ with Jatavian Sanders and Dylan Sampson on FanDuel or something. You would leave a bunch of salary on the table with that team, but you know what I mean. We don't have to do that. We don't have to get that even to win the million. We don't have to do that. You can find ways to still play really highly projected lineups over there. So just something to think about. Quick question. Would you rather roster Sampson or Ollie Gordon in redraft? Sampson for me. It's Sampson for me. I think Ollie Gordon's okay in a pinch, but my stance is that Sampson is essentially the starter. They're going to split the backfield, Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson, but one of them is playing the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think the indications are he's going to like lead the backfield, however we would like to classify lead the backfield, whereas Ollie Gordon does still have Achane in front of him. I think Ollie Gordon's going to get some work for sure, and he might get the goal line work, but Sampson probably gets the goal line work too. Jerome Ford, not a spectacular goal line back. And playing against Joe Burrow in that offense is still just better than playing against Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. Oh, Brandon, we've missed you with your season-long questions. Got offered Gibbs and Zay Flowers for Chase and Pacheco. That's a decline, right? That's up to you. That's up to you. I would be fine with the. I mean, I really, really like Zay, but I think that's a coin flip. That's a personal preference one to me. I don't think it's either side is all that different. You know it. I think that news shoots Hunter up in ownership a bit. See, it's possible, but oftentimes that stuff doesn't really get factored in as much. A bit. I think you're right, like the a bit part, but I don't think he shoots up to the extent to where we care. That's my general take on the situation. TJ says Sampson is such a nice little combo with a Burrow Higgins Chase team. Dude, totally. We'll get to that game. But I'm with you 100%. Okay. Giants Commanders. This is another game. I put out a video a while back of the early week one, like sides and totals and stuff that I had bet. This is one. Shout out to me. We got a whole whopping point of CLV on this one. I didn't get 7.5, but I did get Giants +7 a month or a month and a half ago, something like that. Now, Terry McLaurin, part of the hope was maybe Terry McLaurin doesn't sign. Obviously, Terry did sign, though it was very recent. My take is I just really don't think Terry's going to. I don't want to play into Terry after missing basically the whole summer. We saw this with Brandon Ayuk. I think Terry was possibly a bit overvalued anyway. He was great, and he's a really good football player, but he's 30 years old. He scored a lot of touchdowns last year. I don't want to bank on another 17 touchdown performance or whatever it was. And they did add Deebo Samuel. The Giants are not a bad defense. So Jaden Daniels is going to be super popular in DFS, but I think as you're hearing me kind of talk about, I think the Giants are a little undervalued in this spot, and I agree with Tim. I think that Deebo is an interesting thing. Like I thought Deebo would be very interesting, but he's not like being lowly projected, probably because of the Terry McLaurin stuff here. Let's see what we got. But we're burying the lead. The Deebo projecting for about 13% ownership, more ownership. But at 5,200, I think, with Terry sitting out all of camp, it's pretty understandable. Though this game is just not all that appealing to me. I will say, if you really just want to play, say, look, I don't want to mess around with Flacco and Lawrence and all that kind of stuff. Just give me the quarterback. I know I'm playing into the ownership. I get it. I understand, but then we need to make sure we're still building a good team around a really chalky Jaden Daniels. My favorite play, one of my favorite plays of the entire slate, is on the opposite side of this game, on the Giants, Malik Neighbors. It's crazy to me. It really is honestly crazy to me that, look, BTJ is awesome. I get it's a salary cap game. T-Mac and Pearsall and Ibuka, they all project really well. But we'll just do it. There's 3 wide receivers who, in my opinion, project to have the highest target shares of week 1. It's not Brian Thomas. It's definitely not Emeka Ibuka. It's not Ricky Pearsall. T-Mac is up there, but it's Malik Neighbors, Drake London, and Mike Evans. Like, as great as Ibuka is, this is still Mike Evans' offense without Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan. Ibuka's great. You can play them both. But Malik Neighbors is going to have arguably the highest target share in the league. I would say Malik Neighbors and Drake London, probably alongside Puka. We'll see what's up with Devontae Adams. Project for the highest target shares in the league. And then, of course, Mike Evans projects for 1 because of the injuries that are around him. We saw how awesome Malik Neighbors is. Malik Neighbors with the shitty Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, and Drew Lock is putting up slate-breaking performances as a rookie. Now he's in year 2. If you were worried about his foot thing, it's week 1, so who cares about that? Against Washington, who is not like an amazing matchup, but it's not a bad one. And they're going to have to score. They're touchdown dogs against a team that went to the conference championship game last year in Washington. Everybody likes Jaden Daniels, but Malik Neighbors is lagging behind just because he's just a little bit more expensive than those other guys. But we also just talked about how loose the pricing is. Malik Neighbors is one of my favorite wide receiver plays of the week. The props are pretty high, so I don't know that I'll be partaking in the Malik Neighbors props, but I think it's fine if you want to have some fun with it. He's my favorite play in this game, and he's one of my favorite plays on the board of the week. So it's kind of crazy to me at his ownership. Kramer asked, what about Russ? I'm with you. Like, I think in terms of these punt quarterbacks, let's look at Russ. Doesn't even make the first page of ownership in this game. Russell Wilson, 2%. The thing about part of the Malik Neighbors thing is Russ. And I know Russ is not great, and he was not great with the Steelers last year. But Russ is the best quarterback Malik Neighbors has played with in the NFL, for sure, like by a country mile. So can Russ come up and throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game while they're trying to chase down the Washington Commanders? You bet your ass he can. I think he's absolutely in play for tournaments. I'm not saying he's like my absolute favorite, but you want to talk about a pivot off of the Flaccos and the Lawrences and the what have you. How about the guy with Malik Neighbors? That seems pretty good. So you can play you can play Debo, you can play Russ Neighbors Debo instead of playing Daniels Debo and like probably no Neighbors is what more people are going to do. I think that about covers that game. No real interest in the backs. I do think Tyrone Tracy pretty clearly leads that backfield. I don't really think there's much to be gained from his props or his DFS price. It seems fine. I guess over here at Fanatics, we have him projected. No, that's 60. Never mind. Nothing really for Tyrone Tracy, though. I think he leads that backfield with Cam Scott, who will be missing a large portion of the summer. I did just want to note, I think unders on Austin Eckler props, particularly over when you can get it at the 25 and one of the spots with 25.5. I understand they got rid of Brian Robinson, and we want to wait for game day inactives. If one of Chris Rodriguez or Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt are inactive on Sunday, this would change that calculus for sure. But my take all summer, this is another one of the IKB situations. And what they've showed us all summer is that they kind of have 2 distinct roles in their backfield. You have like an early down runner, that was what Brian Robinson was, and then pass game players. That's why they have 4 guys on the roster. because Chris Rodriguez and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, aka JCM, aka Bill, are like the early down, run the ball between the tackles, goal line guys. And then on the other side, you have Austin Eckler and Jeremy McNichols, who are like pass catchers. They play the pass catching role. I don't think that Austin Eckler should be projected the same rushing as Chris Rodriguez and Bill. Now, they took a lot of these places that have taken Bill off the board. I still personally think, if you had to put a gun to my head, that the first carry of the game goes to Chris Rodriguez, and Austin Eckler, is the passing down back. But I think it's really wide open. There's some potential for some unders here, especially if we get some news. Be quick on the trigger amongst all of those guys. I will just say it's kind of funny that Chris Rodriguez has a higher prop than Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt for the fact that we've been gushing over him all summer. Liam Cohen is going to get Hunter a big game as a way of talking him out of playing defense. We're galaxy braining, but you're on my wavelength of galaxy brain. I'm picking up what you're putting down. All right. The other one of the kind of games of the week, if you will, Bengals, Browns. Some of these other ones will be a little bit quicker. This one, probably not. Bengals, Browns, 48.5. Browns, 5 almost touchdown dogs at home. By the way, I don't think it's crazy to bet the Browns. I have not. I don't know if I will, but I don't think it's crazy to bet the Browns. I don't think it's crazy to bet any over. Honest to God, I may just do it every week. Bet the Bengals over. I don't care about the matchup, and I don't really care about the number. I think their offense is that good, and I think their defense is that bad, and I think the Browns can score. We know it's Joe Flacco. This ain't Dylan Gabriel or Shador or Kenny Pickett, who's now a Raider. I don't think they're going to have that much problem scoring against this Bengals defense. When the Bengals starters played in the preseason, they were getting gashed by Eagles backups and those Washington backups. That's when we had the whole Brian Robinson drama with Chris Rodriguez and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt destroying the Bengals defense. But you know who that really stands to benefit in Cincinnati, Cleveland, is our guy, Dylan Sampson. As you see here in lineup HQ over at RotoGrinders, Chase Brown going to be very popular. That's a stance I'm taking against. I get it. He closed the year really good. He projects to have a lot of the volume, but they brought in Samaje Perine. They brought in Taj Brooks. The reason why Chase Brown got so much work down the stretch last year is because everyone else was hurt, and then they didn't trust a Travion Williams, or even when they traded for Khalil Herbert, they didn't trust him. And it's possible that happens again later in the season, but I don't think that they or any NFL team thinks you come into the year and you just say, yeah, Chase Brown's going to play every single snap like he was doing. I don't think that that's feasible. And I don't think that their moves, bringing Samaje Perine, dude, he's never fantasy relevant, but he's certainly a thorn in the side of our fantasy relevant guys because he's trusted on passing downs. And if we're removing third downs and like 2-minute drills and stuff from Chase Brown's plate, that's a huge ding to this projection. It's a huge ding to his upside. So is he going to have a good game? Probably. He's the running back for the Bengals. Is he a little bit over projected as like the chalk at running back on a good running back slate? I tend to think so. So I'm leaning a little bit away from Chase Brown. There's nothing wrong with him, but just understand that there's a little more risk. I think this is one of those IKBs on the opposite side, right? So we have 2 of them in this backfield. I think that Dylan Sampson has a little bit more fragility to him than the field seems to. And on the opposite side, I think that the fact that Dylan Sampson is projected for far, far, far fewer points than Jerome Ford, all because Mary Kay Cabot said with nothing other than her vibes that Ford is the starter and Sampson is the change of pace, even though in their last preseason game, when they played their full starting lineup to start the game, Dylan Sampson started the game. And even still, they rotated. Dylan Sampson against the Cincinnati Bengals is my other, I believe in this thing. Will I be correct? We'll find out in a few days. But I also think this is the beauty of the Bengals matchup is with Dylan Sampson, or if you want to play Jerome Ford, go for it. They both project for 1%. If you think it's Ford and you think Eric's an idiot with the Dylan Sampson stuff, I think that's good too. I think you should. Against this Bengals defense at these prices, 5,600 for Jerome Ford is a little tough to stomach, but 4,900 for Dylan Sampson. He's like 4,600 on FanDuel. If you want to play Jamar Chase, you want to play the other superstars of the slate, play you some Dylan Sampson on FanDuel. I will be. At 1%, if the field is wrong and Dylan Sampson is the lead back against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns are at home. Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. He's had good running games and scored points every year. The upside is like you won $1 million. Like this dude could have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns if things shake out that way. He was catching passes in the preseason game. I think this backfield, like I would rather play Dylan Sampson, or if you preferred the Jerome Ford thing, than Chase Brown. And on the flip side, in the passing game, Jamar Chase, of course. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, there's nothing negative I can say there. I'm a little less excited about Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman, though the field is too. 5% and 1%. If you want to make those guys some pivots off of, right, Jeudy, 5,400 pivot off of T-Mac or Debo. Tillman, 4,400 pivot off of Ibuka or Pearsall. I think that those guys are reasonable pivots. The Browns are just going to be the team that I'm like most overweight on. And the spot where I'm pulling from in terms of Browns ownership is David Njoku projects to be one of the higher owned tight ends, because that's where people are playing their Browns exposure, like a Flacco, David Njoku stack, which makes a ton of sense. You can play the other running backs and receivers from the other games. But I prefer another one of my guys from the summer, as you guys have assuredly been waiting for me to talk about, but Harold Fannin Jr., rookie tight end out of Bowling Green. He's 2,900 on DraftKings, the extremely, extremely cheap on FanDuel. This is another listening. This is where I think we should flex our muscle of listening to the teams following training camp, following the preseason, where he is functionally a part of the starting offense. He's the tight end 2 of the Browns, but what he really is like a chess piece that they move around the board. He's going to line up in the backfield some. In their last preseason game, he's playing with the starters on the opening drive. They flex him out to wide receiver at the goal line. They're at the 10, call it the 10-yard line. They line him up. They single him. They get him in single coverage on the boundary at wide receiver, and he runs a slant at the goal line and scores a touchdown. They're like trying to get this kid the ball and making sure he's involved with the offense. And now you get the Bengals matchup where you're probably got to throw a little bit more. You're definitely going to need to score some points. And this is the week when no one plays him, right? 0.74% ownership. I agree with Tim. Every video is talking about the Browns, so it's certainly possible that some of the ownership comes in a little bit higher. But what you will also see is that when it comes down to nut cutting time on Sundays, people still play kind of the best projections. And these Browns, right, because it's a two-headed monster in the backfield that people don't really know what to do with. Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman just aren't going to project as good as Ibuka and Pearsall and T-Mac and Debo and all these other guys. And then like the Harold Fannin, it's just us in our weird little bubble with Harold Fannin. I do think people will play David Njoku, but I just think the Browns are, like I said, Jonathan Taylor is like my keynote stand, if you will. But I think if from a tournament, let's go try to win $1 million fucking dollars or $100,000. What's your way to do that? I think it's the Cleveland Browns. That's my take. So we talked about the Cleveland Browns. Go Dylan Sampson. Go Harold Fannin. I've been waiting for props on these guys. Let's just double check because I actually haven't looked this morning yet. No, nothing on Sampson. No rushing yardage props on Sampson, and nothing on Harold Fannin. If we get them over for the limit, that's my general take. And yes, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. Now, Joe Burrow going to be a little bit more popular too. Jamar Chase certainly going to be popular, as we mentioned in when we ran the optimals of 150. Jamar Chase shows up in half of them. The other thing that I really enjoy about the player combo stuff is you can see like how often these types of stacks are being done, right? And how often the certain players are paired together. So across 150 teams, Devon Achane and Chase Brown was actually the highest paired. You see a lot of Chase Brown up here, right? A lot of Chase Brown, a lot of Devon Achane because they're in the majority of the lineups. Then you get to Abuka and CMC and T-Mac, but those are all the most popular players. If we show only the same team guys in optimals, right? The optimals are not necessarily what's going to be played, but it'll give you an indication of kind of where the market is headed when we just run the optimals, and then we start to look at players that are being paired together. And if you look at the visualizer, Chase Brown plus Jamar Chase is in a ton of teams, as is Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall, which we will get to. Interestingly, Jatavian Sanders, so why will Harold Fannin not get played is because Brenton Strange and Jatavian Sanders exist at the low end of tight end instead of him. All right. Raiders, Patriots. I do think this one is pretty good. I bet the over in this game. I think the Raiders are going to be a lot better on offense, obviously, with Geno Smith, new coaching staff, Ashton Genty, year 2, Brock Bowers. And I think the Patriots are going to be a lot better on offense. The Patriots are also going to be better on defense. But Drake May, Stephon Diggs, Travion Henderson. This is another. So this is not quite Browns level for me. But my Travion Henderson love. That's my boy. I love Travion Henderson. And I think he's behind like the Browns thing in terms of like if I'm racking and stacking the ownership and like things that I want to IKB in week 1, he's behind them, but not that far. He was listed 3rd on the initial depth chart, which is absolutely hilarious and tells you everything you need to know about the initial depth charts. I do think, he's going to be a committee member in the backfield. He's going to split the backfield with Ramondre Stevenson for sure. Antonio Gibson. No, absolutely not. But I think, again, if he's as good as we think, if he's catching passes, there's a bit over the summer where every like camp, every scrimmage, every preseason game that Travion played, they always made sure to throw him a wheel route. It's like that's their thing that they do with Travion Henderson is throw him wheel routes. So he's so explosive. He took his very first NFL touch in a preseason game. He's the kick returner as well. 100 yards for a touchdown on the opening kick return. If he's just as good as we think, why do I care that he's splitting some of the work with Ramondre Stevenson? Obviously, he could split too much work and not hit a touchdown, and he's a bad play this week. But like, if you have him in your season-long lineups, just play him for sure. This is what you drafted him for. Don't overthink it. Start your studs, and I think he is actually one of your studs. And the Raiders matchup is good. The Raiders project to have one of the worst defenses in the league. This is just the ringer. It is what it is. But I want to go to, they have the Raiders as, I want to say, no, I lied. Let's just find the Raiders on the shit defense list. They do have the Rams 22nd. So in the bottom third of defenses for the Raiders, whereas the Patriots are a little bit closer up to the top. That's kind of my take. The other take would be that if we go look at the tight end position overall, you don't see Brock Bowers anywhere up here near the top, do you? In ownership? Obviously, he's not the best point per dollar projection. He's 6,500, projecting for just shy, 15 points at 4% ownership. But I mean, again, there is a lot of FUD about his splitting time in the preseason with Michael Mayer. And I get it. All that stuff is concerning. If they were just like shielding him, also, if they're losing in this game, I think Brock Bowers is going to play. They are underdogs on the road in this game. That's a fun little pairing of Brock Bowers, Travion Henderson that I don't think anybody's going to play. And I will just say Drake May, I think, is one of my favorite quarterbacks. Yes, you can play him with Travion. You can play him with Stephon Diggs. You don't have to stack Drake May either if you don't want to. It's a little murky about where it goes after Diggs and Travion and Ramondre. And so I think that's going to keep Drake right. What do I do with him? Do I play Diggs? People aren't really Diggs didn't play in the preseason. This would be the first time we've seen him. He's a little bit older off of an ACL. People don't want to do that, which means you can absolutely do that. But I think that the Patriots side of things, despite a team projected to score a bunch of points and win, and at home with an exciting year 2 quarterback, coaching upgrades, all this kind of stuff, adding Diggs, adding Trevion Henderson, nobody wants to play them. So I think that they are in a pretty good spot. I didn't even mention Ashton Genty, and we have to. This is not my favorite spot for Ashton Genty, especially on DraftKings. He's projecting near the top of ownership. And I think he's a really good football player. He's going to be an awesome football player, and we're going to love him, and we're going to be playing him. On the road at New England, they did upgrade the defense pretty well. It's not going to be like, they're not going to be the Broncos on defense or something, but they're going to be awesome. And awesome. They're going to be much improved. Not awesome. They're going to be much improved. And at 7K, like, he's more expensive than Jonathan Taylor and higher owned on the road against the Patriots. I can't. I can't do it. Even I don't like Josh Jacobs. I don't like the spot for Josh Jacobs, but he's more expensive and higher owned than Josh Jacobs. He's higher owned and basically the same price than Bucky Irving. On FanDuel, it becomes a little bit more difficult, where he's $6,000. He's a much better play on FanDuel, undoubtedly. Half PPR. He's going to catch passes, so it's not that big of a concern, but I do think half PPR is generally better for him. He's going to get all the goal line work for sure. I think he's a great play on FanDuel, but the ownership will also follow him over there. So just something to consider around that. Is T a pivot off of Chase? Definitely. He almost always is, but he definitely is in this spot. I do prefer Jamar, but who doesn't? I think T is absolutely a good pivot, or you can play them both, right? I would almost guarantee, I'm giving away the goods. I would almost guarantee on DraftKings, in one of my teams, I play the Burrow double with Chase and T, with Sampson and Fannin, and just load that game up. I would pretty much guarantee it. So you can play this a lot of ways. You can play that T pivot. You can fade the Bengals wide receivers. You can do a lot of stuff with that game. Our Cardinals Saints. This one's definitely a little bit quicker. I understand why people are playing James Conner. I think that he's not going to get as much work as the average person is hoping for or expecting, but that doesn't mean he can't, score 2 touchdowns against the Saints. It is on the road, but the Saints are going to be bad. Really, really, really bad. Spencer Rattler at quarterback, a bad Saints defense. Cardinals should be able to score here. I prefer Trey McBride. He is my top tight end of the week. If the Saints can score at all to keep this game close, I think McBride projects as the top tight end of the week. Of course, Bowers is great. Of course, Kittle is great. And these other cheap guys we're talking about are great. But if you're spending up and you want my personal favorite spend up, Trey McBride is that option this week. Marvin Harrison Jr. is like really falling between the cracks, which I find to be pretty interesting. At wide receiver, he projects for 10%. So at 5,500, the market is like not buying the bounce back year 2 from Marv, despite a really good matchup with the Saints. I think you can stack this game because there are some pretty clear bringbacks on the Saints side. If you want to play that Kyler double with Marv and McBride, and then whether it's Olave or Shaheed, or of course, Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, interestingly, only projecting for 5 point, let's call it 6, sub 10% ownership, Alvin Kamara on DraftKings, where he's better. Of course, people are playing the guys with the teams that are going to score more. But Alvin Kamara has scored a lot of fantasy points on teams that didn't score a lot. Kellen Moore came out and said Alvin Kamara is going to take most of the rushing work, and we already know he's going to get most of the passing work. I think Kamara is a pretty sneaky good play at running back this week. It remains to be seen if Spencer Rattler can get him the ball like the Derek Carrs of the world did, but he's definitely going to be a foundation of the offense. And I think if Spencer Rattler cannot suck, which seems unlikely, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, they added Devon Vele. They have Brandon Cooks, Juwan Johnson at tight end with Alvin Kamara. The offensive line is worrisome, but they're at home in a dome. I don't know. The Saints feel like some intriguing tournament options on the week. All right. Just got to pick up the pace a little smidge because we're still on the noon games. Bucks, Falcons. Obviously, no Chris Godwin, no Jalen McMillan. No Tristan Wirfs is not great for the Bucks. Superstar left tackle Tristan Wirfs. He'll be back soon, but not for week 1. The Falcons also, this is one of those games that you think you would like. It's really condensed. Like, you can absolutely stack this game. Like, this screams out to me. Baker double stack with London on the other side. Run to the podium. You get all the targets. That's how I prefer to play this game. Though you can also play Bucky and try to, if someone really said they wanted to onslaught something, I think onslaughting the Bucks, including Bucky and the wide receivers and Baker and London, I think would be probably my favorite one. That and the Bengals would be my favorite one. The problem, of course, is that both teams essentially lost their most important offensive lineman. That has been just a little bit concerned for both of these teams heading into week 1. But it's not enough to run away. You can definitely play the Michael Penix side. I will say I'm avoiding Bijan Robinson. I don't think this is a particularly good matchup for Bijan Robinson. He also lost Caleb McGarry, the important offensive lineman for the Falcons. And I just kind of prefer some of the other guys. It doesn't mean Bijan is bad. It doesn't mean Bijan's going to have a bad game, but I just prefer some of the other running backs. I prefer Bucky in this game. But from a receiving game perspective, we'll see if Darnell Mooney plays. Him having just gotten back, I don't know that I want to. And on week 1 with so many good plays, I don't know that I want to jump into Darnell Mooney in his very first game back. But I mentioned before my 3 favorite wide receiver plays: Malik Neighbors, the aforementioned, and the other 2 guys that project to have monster target shares. Mike Evans on the Bucks. We've seen what Mike Evans can do. He supposedly has had an incredible camp. He looks great, even though he might be retiring after the season. He's still awesome on the football field. And then, Emeka Buka is going to be very popular, but he's a very good play. So it's understandable why he's going to be very popular. Drake London, in my opinion, was significantly underowned. Where the hell is this game? Here we go. Drake London at 17% amongst all the wide receivers. He is about 8th. And I don't think he should be 8th. At 6,500? What's the difference specifically between Brian Thomas Jr. at 6,800 and Drake London at 6,500? Both in good spots. I'm not really sure what the difference is. And I loved Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's an incredible play, but I just also think Drake London is an incredible play, and I'm getting an ownership discount. Not anything crazy. People are going to play Drake London. People are going to play Mike Evans. But Mike Evans, you got to scroll a ways, right down. Like Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins. He's in more of that tier of Stephon Diggs. He's in that tier of ownership, and I don't think that is correct. Bree says, big ask for Rattler not to suck. Ain't that the truth? Go away for 45-minute meeting, come back. We're still in the noon games. Yeah. Welcome to Spike Week. It's week 1. We're excited. There's also a lot to cover. And there's a lot of fucking noon games. You better be locked in, brother, for the noon games on Sunday. Titans Broncos. We're not on the noon games anymore. Oh, hold on. Before we move to the afternoon, Kyle says, I have Josh Allen. Should I double flex Shakir and Coleman or Jacoby Myers? Yeah, I would play. Assuming Shakir's fine. So I'm definitely playing Keon. This is my team. I'm playing Keon. I'm monitoring Shakir's because he has been out with a high ankle sprain. I would prefer to play Shakir, but if I'm not feeling comfortable by the time what Saturday gets here, they play on Sunday night or Sunday morning. I would play Jacoby Myers, not Ollie. I like Ollie fine, but Ollie's more of I'm in a pinch at RB2 and I need to play that guy. I don't want to play him over like solid wide receivers. And I know Jacoby Myers requested a trade, but I think he's going to play and get the Jacoby Myers targets. What's more important in the flex, wide receiver or running back in GPPs? This is a great question that a lot of people ask. And I think it's a week-to-week thing that also doesn't really matter that much. I tend to prefer run in half PPR on FanDuel. I tend to prefer running backs, right? It's just easier, but it doesn't mean every single week. This week, I do think the running backs are better. But it also doesn't mean you can, like, if 4 wide receivers all have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, you want the 4 wide receivers. I think it's kind of dependent upon your lineup. It's dependent upon that week and that pricing. And of course the site, right? DraftKings is full PPR with 100-yard bonuses. I like that better for wide receivers than I do running backs. So I lean a little bit more to the wide receivers, but also if you can like stack up a game or onslaught an offense with 3 like workhorse running backs, that's also like, that's historically how I've had a lot of success. Now the game has changed a little bit, so I don't do that quite as much, but years ago, the dream would be to just show up and play whatever, like Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, and Jonathan Taylor, and then like a Jag stack with them. You might be able to do this, by the way, in week 1, with like Jag stack, and you got a cheap wide receiver and a cheap tight end, and it makes all the stuff fit. Like you can absolutely do that as well, but it's unfortunate to answer. Like it depends, or it depends on that team, or it depends on that week, but ultimately it really does. Though I will just say that the DraftKings scoring lends itself a little bit better to wide receivers, and the FanDuel scoring lends itself a little bit better to running backs. Titans Broncos up to 8.5. Unfortunately, I missed this one. I'm really triggered because the Broncos have become one of my kind of favorite pet teams. Maybe they'll be the team that I'm rooting for this year. Denver, beautiful city. But minus 8.5 against the road Titans. Cam Ward's first game, probably not going to go well at elevation on the road in Denver against one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. If we went back to this, to our defensive rankings here, interestingly, I just spoiled what I had this up for with Seattle, but Denver is in everybody's like top 5, 6 ish. Some people have Denver as the number 1 defense in the league. Obviously this gentleman has them as 6, but the point is not the specific ranking. The point is that the Denver defense is going to be very good. However, I'm pretty interested in Broncos stuff here from both a DFS and a betting perspective. Let's do the props real quick because obviously Devon Vele got traded, and that has opened up a ton of opportunity amongst the wide receivers. We do have Marvin Mims. The Scores and Odds team does have Marvin Mims at a slight bit of a value. I particularly like the other wide receiver who has benefited here, and I understand that the market isn't quite as keen on that. But in the last game without Vele, Troy Franklin moved into the starting lineup and has had a phenomenal camp. And he's another one of those kind of IKBs. It's unfortunate that like, I'm not sure there's a place for him in my tournament lineups from a DFS perspective. I'll have to like force him into something like a Bo Nix, Troy Franklin stack, bring back the Oregon connection. But I like his overs here. I believe his reception prop is 1.5 and receiving yards is as low as 18.5 over at FanDuel. I'm a big proponent of Troy Franklin this week as, again, kind of an IKB, play it before you see it type of a situation. I don't think the market is correct on how they've valued the Broncos wide receivers without Devon Vele. I will say I quite like Bo Nix in this spot. I don't think the Titans defense is going to be all that great. Bo Nix, do you see him on the top of the ownership list here? Nope. Do you see me keep scrolling? Finally, to get to him after Kyler and Penix and Drake May and Baker Mayfield, I am unsure if I will be able to get to him, but he is still a priority for me. It kind of depends on how many teams I'm going to play. You can play him with Courtland Sutton if you would prefer to go that route. I talked about the Troy Franklin thing, but at 6K in that last preseason game, they threw it, a couple times to Franklin, a couple times to Mims, and a bunch of Courtland Sutton. Like if he has one of the highest target shares on the week, I would not be surprised. And no one's playing him. Absolutely no one's playing him. No interest for me in the Titans side with that good Broncos defense, except I think Tony Pollard is probably worth a little bit of a look here. We talked about Jerome Ford at 5,600. Tony Pollard is 5,700. A historically good pass catcher. And there's no Tyjae Spears in this game. I find it kind of interesting, actually, that Tony Pollard is not going to be popular at all. I know the matchup is bad. I know they're on the road. But like if they're trailing, he's going to be out there, catching checkdowns. Are the checkdowns going to be enough to have a good score for DraftKings? I don't really like him on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, I think Tony Pollard is a pretty sneaky tournament option. Next afternoon game, 49ers Seahawks. I bet the Seahawks. I like the Seahawks. I'm unsure of what to do with this game from a DFS perspective because the Seahawks are going to all be, or the 49ers are going to all be very popular. And I think they're all very good plays, even though I think that the Seahawks are going to win this game. The Seahawks are home dogs, which seems insane to me. We talked a little bit earlier about the Ricky Pearsall versus George Kittle versus Juwan Jennings stuff. I really, really like Ricky Pearsall. Juwan Jennings is going to play in week 1. However, I think that muddies up a little bit of the Pearsall stuff, but it's going to be really condensed, right? CMC, Kittle, Pearsall, Juwan, like nobody else is touching the ball for the 49ers. So I think it's okay to play any of those guys. It's okay to play any of the and if I have Juwan Jennings and I need to flex play in my season-long league or something like that, I think I'm fine doing that. CMC, I burying the lead. I'm playing Christian McCaffrey. I think if they lose, it's fine. This is the time. This is my chance to get my money in on Christian McCaffrey, but it's certainly not off the beaten path to play Christian McCaffrey. Projects for the highest ownership of the slate, but $7,300 Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle is telling everyone to play Christian McCaffrey in their to draft Christian McCaffrey in the first round. Who would you take first overall? He said Christian McCaffrey. I trust George Kittle, and so I don't trust George Kittle to understand that week 17 is all that matters, or roster construction from a best ball perspective. But he's telling us that Christian McCaffrey is looking good. And in week 1 DFS, I don't care about the late season stuff, and he's only 7,300. So he's a pretty good play. As much as I love the Seahawks to win, they're a little bit murkier. But I will say that Ken Walker, I think $5,900 Ken Walker. It's funny because week 1 is sometimes using your takes that you had all summer, Dylan Sampson, Harold Fannin, right? Whatever, taking Troy Franklin, taking those things that you learned over the summer and seeing and thinking that the market is wrong about those guys, Trayvon Henderson, whatever. And then sometimes it's playing into the guys that you didn't draft all summer and weren't really interested in. And I think Ken Walker at 2.8% against a 49ers defense that was poor against the run last year, and I think might be bad, is pretty appealing. I liked Zach Charbonnet better in the draft season, but I think in week 1, it's interesting to like, we're all kind of assuming, as you see here, Charbonnet projecting for 8.9 points, Ken Walker for 13. So we're giving Charbonnet a hefty part of that backfield. What if Ken Walker still kind of holds on to the majority of that backfield? I think that makes him a pretty appealing tournament option for sure. Agree. Bree says Denver has a good defense, but they got scorched 3 to 4 times last year. The problem is they didn't get scorched by teams like the Titans, right? Like Ravens and Bengals won tournaments against them. Those are like the 2 best offenses in the league, 2 of the top 5, so that's my problem. I think with it's not that you can't play guys against the Broncos defense. It's that I don't want to play the lower tier offenses. And I'm excited for Cam Ward. I'm excited for Pollard and Io Manor and Chig and stuff, but it's like as value options in drafts. I don't want to be counting on, like, I need ceiling games, especially in week 1 with how loose the pricing is. I need ceiling games from those guys and from a DFS perspective. And we've already talked for an hour and a half of how many good plays there are on this slate. I would just prefer to lean elsewhere, away from Tennessee on the road at Denver in week 1. I'm late, but if we are attacking Cincinnati, should we be playing Tillman at 1%? Yeah, I think my general thesis about the Browns that I kind of talked about earlier is that the Browns are basically all the best tournament plays on the board. Judy as a pivot off of the guys in his range. Tillman as a pivot off of Pearsall and Abuka, and the running backs as pivots off of whoever. Fannin as pivots off of his own teammate Njoku. Njoku's not going to be like a necessarily great pivot, but if you want to play Njoku, go ahead and play Njoku. There's just someone's going to score fantasy points on the Browns. Can't guarantee you I'm going to nail who it is, but I'm pretty confident that the Browns are going to score fantasy points against this Bengals team. So Tillman definitely fits that mold. The rest of Seattle, my guy B. Kurt has brought up Torrey Horton a couple times. Torrey Horton fits into that. Malik Washington, Troy Franklin, right? These like punt, Io Manor if you're not afraid of the Broncos defense. Torrey Horton at $3,000, the Stone Min on DraftKings, is going to be a starting wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know that it's still Jackson Smith and Jigba. They're still going to play Cooper Kupp. They're still going to run the football. I just don't know. If you need a guy down there, I think Horton is one of, the top 5 or whatever, like true punts on DraftKings. I just don't know that we need true punts on DraftKings this week is sort of my general thesis for those kind of guys. Will I dabble in those guys like in the Millie Maker? Probably. Come on. We can't have 0 of our favorite guys heading into the week. I agree. I haven't talked much defense. And I apologize for that. It's hard enough to get to all the actual players, but the Seahawks defense, God damn it. Thank you. What I was going to bring up, more so of why I'm betting the Seahawks, is this roster is just underrated. No one believes in the Seahawks. They were my favorite futures bet, which if you are a premium subscriber, spikeweek.com, right? We don't just have a YouTube channel. We also have lots of tools and content and rankings and everything up on the website. What I put up this morning is our futures blueprint, right? So this is the week 1 blueprint, our futures betting blueprint. My favorite futures bet is the Seattle Seahawks to win the NFC West. You could have got it at plus 575. It's down to plus 550. This guy is saying the Seahawks have the best defense in the NFL. I'm not sure. I think that's a little bold, but they're going to have a good defense. If Sam Darnold is just not terrible, I think that they're going to make for a really good football team. And so from a 49, I like the Seahawks as a bet, but in terms of playing the 49ers, it's so condensed. They're so good. Their offense is going to score points. I'm not like fading the 49ers, but I'll probably be a little lighter on the 49ers than the average person is, specifically like Pearsall, Kittle, Jawan. I'll be a little bit, maybe not Jawan, because I'm not sure people are going to play him much, but I'm mostly going to get my 49ers exposure through Christian McCaffrey and try to get to some lower owned options at wide receiver and such rather than, and I really like Ricky Pearsall. I drafted a bunch of Ricky Pearsall, but it's kind of playing that game a little bit where I think the Seahawks are going to be, Seattle is a tough place to play. I think it's going to be a little bit tougher spot than people think. Last 2 games of the main slate, and then we just got the couple of the Sunday night game and the Monday night game. Lions, Packers. I bet the Lions to win the Super Bowl. Go Lions. No real interest to me. Not much interest in this game, actually, from a DFS perspective, aside from a couple things that we'll touch on. It's interesting to me that the Lions are dogs on the road. Not dogs on the road. It's interesting to me that they're dogs. The Packers are getting a lot of respect in the betting markets. I think it's mostly warranted. Though I'm rather worried about a couple things with the Green Bay Packers. Jaden Reed's foot. He did not practice yesterday. We'll see what happens today. Obviously, Christian Watson is on IR. Dontavian Wicks and Savion Williams missed a bunch of time, so it would be Romeo Doubs and Matthew Golden. Tucker Kraft is a beast. They're still going to be good on offense. Good offensive line. Josh Jacobs, right? But then, Marshawn Lloyd got hurt behind him, and Josh Jacobs is a good football player. He's not like he's obviously not like mega explosive and stuff. I think he's a good fantasy option. The Lions, however, last year, the thing that I think gets glossed over that I've tried to continue pounding the table for as much as I could this summer is before like the absolute insane injury bug hit the Lions defense. They were an awesome defense for the first part of the year. Now people will score sometimes against them because they're so aggressive and they score so many points and they play in a dome. But the Lions defense was really good. But then, Hutchinson goes down and like every defensive back with a pulse goes down. And, when you suffer that much injury attrition, it's just going to happen. They should be back a little bit here on the defensive side of the football. I think that their defense is going to be really good. And I think that the offense can still be fine. As Cody says, Ben Johnson is gone. Aaron Glenn is gone. People are worried about Frank Ragnow is gone. There's absolutely reasons for concern about the Lions. I think the infrastructure is so good. And I think the overall talent is still absolutely elite that I'm a little more worried about the Packers. The home field advantage is nice for the Packers. Their secondary is problematic for the Packers. It's not like awful or anything like that. They have some solid safety play, but the corners are a bit concerning. Obviously, they have Parsons now to help alleviate that with pass rush, but Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs are two guys I'm going to be playing in tournaments that the field is not, and two guys that I'm really interested in this year, especially in week one. Like absolutely the epitome of play it before you see it are those two Detroit Lions. I'm going to bet, or did bet, the David Montgomery rushing yards under and the Jameson Williams receiving yards over, because all they've talked all summer about is Jameson Williams. Like, he's going to be more of a focal point in the offense. They're going to manufacture touches for him. He's going to be more than just kind of this downfield flyer. If that's true, against some shaky corner play from the Green Bay Packers, I know it's Goff on the road at Green Bay, but Jameson Williams at 5,500 and 2% ownership is a potential like windmill tournament play. Like, what if he's like 1A, 1B with Amon-Ra St. Brown instead of being the clear number 2? The field is going to play more Amon-Ra St. Brown because they're projecting him to still kind of be that guy. And they're also projecting them to kind of trail, right? In this game, the Packers are favored. I think Jameson Williams is an incredible, like, not going drafted in your underdog drafts, right? What's his, I don't know what his, like, where he's generally being picked in underdog drafts off the top of my head. Same thing on drafters. 2% owned tournament, nice little late afternoon hammer on what I assume is the prime, the Fox game or CBS game or whatever. I just love Jameson Williams, but I also love Jahmyr Gibbs at 6%. 6% own Jahmyr Gibbs. And here's the deal. David Montgomery is going to play. Of course. Yeah, we lost Frank Regnell. Jahmyr Gibbs is what we said, all the phraseology that we've all said all summer. I don't know if that's the right word or if I just made it up. But if I did, we're sticking with it. Is you can't put the genie back in the bottle with Jahmyr Gibbs. What he did to close the season last year was operate as the best running back in all of football. Him and Saquon, the best running backs in all of football. This summer, David Montgomery has historically been the starter running back, right? But then they rotate drives. All this summer, Jahmyr Gibbs has been the starting running back. They're not going to just banish David Montgomery to the shadow realm, but our projections baking in too much work for David Montgomery, and with a new offensive coordinator who has done nothing but talk about getting the ball to his playmakers, are we giving a little too much work to David Montgomery and not enough work to Jahmyr Gibbs, as well as, of course, Jameson Williams? That is a stance I'm taking, right? The whole thing, everything for me about this opening week is like, where are the projections? Where's the market wrong? And where could they be most wrong in a way that I can profit the most from, right? Win $1 million on DraftKings or FanDuel. Win, hit a ladder player prop, right? Whatever. Jameson Williams is projected at 50 yards and ladder him up to 100 or whatever. Where can I benefit from these sites being these projections, whatever, the market, the books being the most wrong? And I think these are two really good examples, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams. Yeah, it is so funny. And I was not a Yu-Gi-Oh guy, but it was like through osmosis. TJ says it's funny to see how often Shadow Realm is used in fantasy football. It is hilarious because, like I said, I was not a Yu-Gi-Oh person, but it's just like when everybody's talking about it, it becomes a part of your vernacular pretty quickly. All right, last game, Rams, Texans. This is one that is also going to be a big stand for me in the opposite way of some of these other guys we talked about. Puka Nacua and Nico Collins are going to be very popular in DFS. I'm not like betting their unders on props. I don't feel that passionately about it from a prop perspective, but I did bet the under on this game. Again, if we go look at our defense stuff over here, you see number 2 on the list. What I think they might be the best defense in the NFL is the Houston Texans. Now they're on the road. Sean McVay is great. The Rams offense looks solid with Matthew Stafford healthy, but that's a tough defense to score against. And the Houston Texans, while Nico Collins and CJ Stroud are very good, everything else on that offense is a huge question mark. Joe Mixon on IR. Is Nick Chubb any good anymore? They have the worst offensive line in the NFL. The Houston Texans do. Christian Kirk did not practice yesterday. We'll see what happens with today. Xavier Hutchinson was starting over Nico Collins, or was not over Nico Collins, was starting over Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel in the preseason. Dalton Schultz is cooked. I'm not sure the Texans can score on this Rams team. From a DFS defense perspective, I like both of these defenses. The Rams are going to be like 1% owned against the worst at home. We saw what the Rams pass rush did to the Vikings in the playoffs. Now they're going to face at home the worst offensive line in the NFL with some shaky weapons other than Nico Collins, Nick Chubb getting the ball. Maybe Christian Kirk doesn't even play. And the Rams are going to be like the lowest owned defense on the board. So like, I know you got to pay a little bit. It's because of the price. But I also do like the Texans defense because they have like the best defense in the league. Matthew Stafford is very good, but he is obviously a sitting duck in the pocket. He's not going to be scrambling around and avoiding the rush. I bet the under here, and I am not a big fan of these guys in DFS tournaments. And again, Puka Nacua and Nico Collins are projecting to be two of the higher owned wide receivers. Give me all those other guys we've talked about here on this slate. Can two talents, the level of Puka Nacua and Nico Collins, make me feel very foolish on Sunday at about 6:00? You bet your ass that they can, no matter what the matchup is. But my general stance is there's other guys who project for monster target shares just like they do. There's other guys who have insane ceilings, and they're in better spots than these guys are at often lower ownership. So it's just like, how can I play a guy like one of these guys, given kind of everything that I just laid out there? Same thing goes for Kyren Williams. Same thing goes for Devontae Adams. Same thing goes for Dalton Schultz. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not playing Nick Chubb. I don't have interest in these quarterbacks. So that one is pretty straightforward. All right, that's the DFS main slate. That's the Battle Royale main slate, the DFS main slate, the Red Zone and Sunday Ticket main slate. I don't honestly have like mega takes for the two primetime games. Texans should just throw a ton though, right? Theoretically, Lil Dodger, theoretically, they should. But they should have been last year when they had a terrible offensive line. And Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Tank Dell healthy. They still didn't throw. D'Amico Ryans is a bit of a boomer. He knows they have a great defense, and he likes to run the football. He's the head coach. So theoretically, they should throw. But also dropping back to pass a bunch behind a really bad offensive line is also a recipe for disaster on the road against a good team. So yes and no. Yes and no. With that backfield, you should throw a little bit more. But also with that offensive line, you don't want to put CJ Stroud in too many, third and longs. And it's a tricky situation. But that, again, all those issues are part of why I like the under in that game. Let's see. Ravens, Bills. I'll be honest with you. I'm sitting back and enjoying this one. I'll give away the very first bet I made on this game from a few months ago. I don't know. We can look at what the odds are. I don't have any super strong. It could not be. This is the game I'm most excited for, other than the games we're gambling on a lot more with DFS plays and such. But if we look at some touchdowns, when Isaiah Likely got, so we're at plus 190 for Mark Andrews is our best odds. That's a little rich, but that would be part of my stance. Where is the home run swing of our guy is right here, baby. If we're talking about Tyquan Thornton and Will Shipley, the home run swing on Sunday night is our other boy, Keaton Mitchell. 10-1 anytime touchdown for Keaton. Looks nice to me. Let's just double check. I don't hate the Zay Flowers idea either. I think we get, as everyone probably thinks, with a 50.5 total and two of the best teams in the NFL who had just an insanely exciting playoff game. We're going to get plenty of points. Hopefully both of these two teams pass a little bit more over their normal expectation, because normally they just steamroll teams, right? With the ground game, they're not going to steamroll each other. Here, they're going to have to take to the air. So mostly just a viewing experience here. But home run swing, grand slam swing on Keaton, I think makes for a ton of sense. and a little dabble of Zay Flowers. Then Vikings Bears. Ben Johnson, speaking of Ben Johnson from earlier, had a hilarious quote the other day or today or whenever it was that we'll see how Caleb looks the next few days of practice before we decide like how much we're going to put on his plate. Like, brother, it's week 1. The fuck you mean you got to wait for a couple more practices you don't know how confident you are in your starting quarterback 3 days away from the game? What are you talking about? You don't know your game plan yet? Like, this dude, I know he's an offensive wizard, but he needs to shut up because this is just not, it doesn't get better every time. It's what a coincidence that he hired Dennis Allen, another guy who every time he spoke, and there's a reason why he's a defensive assistant now, defensive coordinator now, not a head coach. Like, my God, man, this is just not really the way to motivate your players. But anyway, Vikings Bears. I think it'll be a relatively fun game. I'm excited to see JJ McCarthy. I'm excited to see the new Ben Johnson Chicago Bears offense. Honestly, not a ton to love. I think both of these defenses are going to be good, as you see with a 43.5 total. Unsurprising that the market is expecting both of the defenses to be good. If you want to bet on Justin Jefferson, go check out Fanatics at 75.5. No Addison in this game. Adam Thielen, you'll have to forgive me if I don't think Adam Thielen is going to take everything away from JJ. And Jalen Naylor is going to play, it appears, which is not the case a few weeks ago. But I think Justin Jefferson and to a lesser extent, TJ Hawkinson look pretty good in this game. I don't have any idea what to do with the Bears. That's, I know we want to play it before we see it, but it's Monday Night Football. I don't have a strong take on the Bears and how their offense is going to look, especially against a pretty tough Vikings defense. Sounds like Brian Flores can't wait for Monday. Yeah, exactly. If Ben Johnson is not sure what his quarterback is going to look like and what his game plan is, I think Brian Flores is over there like, well, this sounds like I'm going to blitz the shit out of this team. All right. Wow. We made much better time than usual. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do one pick'em slip. If the pick'em slip wins, we'll come up with something to give away for next week. We can talk about that in the Discord. Of course, there's a link to the Discord. It's $5 a month to get premium access. Premium subscribers on the website, if you have access to all the tools and rankings and all that kind of stuff, get access for free to the Discord. Let's talk about that in the Discord. We'll do some form of a giveaway if we can win something with this pick'em slip. I don't know why I just unshared my screen, but I did. John, thank you for the super chat. Can you rank for me Fields, Stroud, and Love? Oh, brother. Hold on. I really want to look at the projections on this one because fantasy points. I think it's going to tell me Fields, Love. Yeah, so my lean was going to be Jordan Love. I hate that game for Fields against the Steelers. Somebody posted, which was an interesting. I hadn't thought about the revenge narrative because there's obviously the revenge narrative for Justin Fields. The team benched him, but the Steelers also being like a vengeful against Justin Fields and like knowing how he plays and stuff like that. I think everyone knows how Justin Fields plays nowadays, so I'm not sure I buy into that, but I thought it was interesting. I think I'm just going to pass on Fields this week. And then I talked about the CJ Stroud issues. So it has to be Jordan Love for me. I will put Fields second just because of the rushing. So we'll go Jordan Love, Justin Fields, CJ Stroud in that order. And thank you for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. FanDuel flag plant is Jonathan Taylor. Let's flip over to FanDuel really quick because I know I didn't do a good enough job of referencing their prices. But just super quickly, we can, take everything we just talked about for the last little while and just view it through a FanDuel telescope. At quarterback, as you would expect, it's kind of like quarterback is really the same deal on both sites. Daniels, Burrow, Lawrence, that kind of stuff. Though you're not going to get the Daniel Jones, Joe Flacco stuff over here on FanDuel, but just be cognizant, right? Like pricing is so soft on FanDuel that Tommy Tremble is now, look at that. FanDuel has such soft pricing that everyone is going to be able to jam Jaden Daniels and be able to jam Christian McCaffrey and be able to jam superstar tight ends. So it doesn't mean that you can't. It just means understand that and like think about what we're going to do with the rest of our lineup. Ashton Genty. So right, see the difference here. Ashton Genty is 6,400 on FanDuel. So it's pretty understandable. Chase Brown, 6,900. My flag plant, as you again see, scrolling down to Jonathan Taylor. I kind of love the fact that he's 8,300 over here on FanDuel, keeping his ownership very much in check. But he would be my running back flag plant. We talked about the Browns and stuff like that. You guys get the deal. Though they're a little less necessary on here, but that could mean they're going to be pretty fun in tournaments. Wide receivers. This is again where we see Nico standing out amongst the ownership. Brian Thomas, Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, etc. People obviously, right? They have the funds, so they're going up and getting the superstar wide receivers. We talked about the wide receivers who I particularly love. And then same thing, right? George Kittle as the highest owned tight end, Trey McBride as the second highest owned tight end, and then David Njoku and Brock Bowers. People are spending up at tight end. So if you want to do flip some builds around, and if you want to play the expensive guys who are going to be popular, finding the lower owned ways to do it using some of the guys we talked about here today, I think is the way to go. Just super quickly, let's look at defenses. We hadn't spent any time on that. Broncos just mega chalk on FanDuel. And I don't really, they're a great play, of course. I don't love playing the mega chalk defense, but again, if you're doing something a little funky, I think it's okay. But you don't see my Rams on here anyway. 3,700 and 3% owned. Bree earlier mentioned the Seahawks, the Lions at 4K. There's some fun stuff you can do on the defensive side of both sides, FanDuel and DraftKings. Do you like Bucky at 7? I much prefer Bucky on DraftKings with the pass catching, which is interesting because he comes out on like third downs because he can't block anybody. But they manufacture so many touches for him in the passing game. It's not that he can't score touchdowns. Of course he can. He's just a much better full point PPR player. So he moves down the list for me on FanDuel. So I wouldn't say I don't like him, but I don't, he's not my favorite option. All right. So what we're going to do is let's do a draft. What I need is three of you guys to come join me in this whale here over on Drafters, and then we'll also put together a pick'em slip on Drafters. Is this RotoGrinders? Yeah, what I had up was RotoGrinders. Yeah, lineup HQ. So I think Underdog has one of these too, but has if you want to use a Saquon Barkley freebie, right, over 0.5 rushing yards, we can go get some of our favorite guys here. Not full season. Where do they have Shipley up? Yeah, come on. Okay, let's build a winner here. It's gonna definitely have Will Shipley. Nothing in KC, LAC. No, let's skip that one. Let's get to the fun stuff. Oh, I do kind of like this Rico Dowdle under on rushing yards. He was really just being used as the passing down back, but that's also boring. Let's have some fun. Let's rip some overs, huh? Let's see. What's BTJ? Good Lord. 77.5. T-Mac. Travis Hunter. Yeah, you guys tell me. Travis Hunter or Xavier Legette. Somebody in the chat. We'll go with an over on either Travis Hunter or Xavier Legette, or Jatavian Sanders or Brenton Strange. You can only do one from each game. On Drafters. So you guys tell me, and we'll let it rip on Sanders, Leggett, Strange, or Hunter. Because I'm down for any of them. All right, let's do Leggett. Leggett, 36.5. Oh, I didn't realize I have a. I didn't realize I have a free. My free ticket is hold on, let me just double check this. Only need one more for our whale, so we better hurry up on our pick 'em slip here. Let's close the promo, close the Jags. Oh God, Browns. See, the problem with the Browns one is I want to do all the Browns I want to put on here are not on there, so I'm gonna skip the Browns. Oh baby, got it. Thank you, Bernie. I'll make sure to not do the ticket. Oh no, the whale is starting. Okay, we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back to the pick 'em slip. All right, we're picking last. What I do like about the drafters weekly drafts is, well, of course, it's full point PPR. They have the super flex option. So this is the whale. They have the shark, which is two quarterbacks, right? So super flex tournament, and so you have a couple different options, and then 8 rounds over here is pretty fun. So instead of just 6 players, we get to draft a couple extra guys. And I put our rankings together for the week already, but I have not drafted yet. We've been getting caught up, so we'll see how this goes. You guys can call me a fool. Let's see what, and they do have, as you see here, Lamar and Allen are on the drafter slate. So if you wanted to get some weekly draft Lamar and Allen, get them into your DFS portfolio, this is the spot on drafters. I do not like to take. What I will say is, I am not a early quarterback guy. There's only 6 teams. I don't really want to, as much as I would love to have. Yeah, exactly. The ADP gets sorted by projection, so it's all the quarterbacks at the top. So we can get all the good running backs and wide receivers and such. It is a look. Damn. Well, if I'm gonna flag plant JT, we have to take him, right? Let's do McBride. Just lock up that elite tight end. This feels like a best ball draft. 2nd round Trey McBride, come on down. Nothing has changed. We've moved to the in season and we're still taking 2nd round Trey McBride. Ay. One thing I feel I'm going to do a good clip more of these drafts. I really like the drafters ones too. There's several $1,000s to the top prize, by the way, in these tournaments. This is not nothing. That's just the info. We can look at the league right here, right? Oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. Let's go back. Let's see here. Okay, tight end is done. Ooh, maybe I can. This is where I can get the big dog. Genty or the big dog? No, let's hold on. I really want Evans because Thomas London, Amon-Ra went. I can't believe we're all going to pass on Puka. That's so funny. Full PPR with the big dog I don't like, but I don't really like these other guys. No, screw that. I'm taking Lamar now. I'm ripping the Band-Aid off the quarterback deal. Didn't know Drafters has Battle Royale. Oh, hold on. Didn't know Drafters has Battle Royale. So in the whale, the $11 whale, which I'm in right here, it is $25,000 total prize pool, $4,000 to first place. So not bad for, this ain't 50,000 or something like that, but it's also only 2,500 people in the tournament. I like that. Then the 2QB is a $55 entry with only 200 people, but it's 2,000 to first place. And then they have a $3.30 splash, which is a $10,000 prize pool, 1,500. So you can do, the $3 tournament for. So we're in the nice little four figures of the prize pools. It's better. I think it's better than people think over on Drafters. Which of course, if you've not played on Drafters before, you can use code SPIKE for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. It still count, right? It's not just best ball season where the promo codes and our deposit bonuses count. And still today, final day, if you have signed up on Drafters before and you want to reload your account, maybe for in season to boost up, to play some stuff in season, use code SPIKE reload 20, SPIKERELOAD 20. 20 and you'll get 20% deposit bonus on that. Talked about Pollard, talked about Ken Walker, though Kamara, I have Trey McBride. Kamara seems pretty good on a Trey McBride team. Let's do Kamara. T-Mac is fine. Judy. Let's do Sutton. I'm doing a bunch of the guys that I didn't draft over the summer that project well in week one. Exactly. This is what I really like about him. I won the Superflex one a couple times last year. I haven't won this whale. I won the Superflex one a couple times last year. I really enjoy it, and it's really fun because, as you said, there's like in that one, there's only 200 teams. You can still win a couple grand, and who doesn't want $2,000? But only got to beat 199 teams, and you really don't need the stone cold nuts. The underdog battle royale stuff is great. I'm going to play some more of it this year. I think it's awesome. But like, man, in their main battle royale stuff, you literally have to have the exact stone cold nuts. So it's nice to not have to need that. A great username, by the way. It's okay to laugh. Dak or Fields, week one. Dak. Dak for me. I know it's not comfortable, but neither is Fields against the Steelers. If I knew I was going to take Lamar, I wonder if I should have waited for Andrews. But I am going to go do J-Mo and Zay and stack Lamar with Zay. So that's fun. Lamar. So this is the lineup that you all said. This goddamn camera. Lamar, 2 running backs, Jonathan Taylor and Alvin Kamara. 3 wide receivers, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, Jameson Williams. 1 tight end, Trey McBride, and a flex, which of course can be running back, wide receiver, tight end, Zay Flowers. So we stack Lamar with Zay. We got the old Sunday night hammer going here with a bunch of boomer ass picks, JT, Kamara, Mike Evans, and Cortland Sutton. But I do like it. All right, let's build this pick'em slip. Let's finish this pick'em slip over here on Drafters. Oh shoot. Okay. Remember, you can't. I need to make sure I don't use my ticket. But okay, we said Shipley. We said Will Shipley and nobody there. And Leggett. Leggett was the vote. The chat shows Leggett. So everybody blame Bree when this loses and we don't get what I would like to try to do. I don't know if Drafters is listening. If my good friends from over at Drafters, see if we can't give away some Pick'em tickets. If I win whatever Pick'em slip we put together every Thursday, we can put together hopefully some free Pick'em slip giveaways to the folks. Let's skip that. We got to do Travion, right? We got to do Travion. Do we do rushing yards, receiving yards, or longest rush for Travion? Somebody give me a vote. I kind of think receiving. Oh, nice. Pac-Fan says he turned a $5 free Pick'em slip into $100 on Drafters, and then turned that into 5 free. That's the way to do it right there. All right, let's do receiving for Travion. He's going to go over 21.5 on that one wheel route. Let's close this sucker. Miami, Indy. Oh, okay. No votes from you guys. We're going JT on this one. For sure. 80 rushing yards from Jonathan Taylor. 3 more spots. Can we get 3 more spots? Giants, Commanders. Hold on. We can come back to it. Not Pittsburgh. Tampa Bay, Atlanta. Evans, Ibuka, or London. London, 80 yards. Ibuka, 59. Evans, 70. We're going Evans, guys. Evans being only 10 yards over Ibuka is hilarious. Let's pass on that one. I don't hate Tony Pollard over 14.5 receiving yards here. I also don't hate Cortland Sutton over. Oh, JMO time. Then we got one more. Where are we, JMO? Yes, 53 receiving yards. That one's going to get home on one. No, we're not playing into that boring ass Houston game. Let's do neighbors. Let's close it out with Chris Rodriguez is very tempting, but that's not very fun. Let's do neighbors. All right. How do I get rid of this? $5 at 100x. The Saquon freebie. Will Shipley, Xavier Legette, Travion Henderson, Jonathan Taylor, Mike Evans, Jameson Williams, and Malik Neighbors. Over City. Over City. The football therapist says New Jersey allows to bet on almost any prop draws line at Pick'ems, sadly. You can take these. Doesn't have to be a Pick'em slip. You can take your Pick'em slip or take the props and build a little Pick'em parlay on one of your. Oh, no. We lost our JT. I'll wait. It'll come back online, and I'll wait to place it when it comes back online. But that's going to do it. Week 1 preview in the books. Very first blueprint here at Spike Week. This was a ton of fun. Be back every Thursday with this. Be on the lookout for tomorrow's show. Same bat time, same bat channel. Going to do some more drafts. Going to put together some more Pick'em slips. Going to talk some more props and just talk week 1 a little bit more tomorrow. Of course, we will have the Thursday night game to discuss, but we're in week 1. I'm excited. This was a ton of fun. Thank you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, if you could click the thumbs up button, that would be awesome. So we can keep these shows rolling every single week. Plan to do pretty much the same thing, all 17 weeks, 18 weeks of the NFL season here. The blueprint action for your DFS, your drafts, your betting, and everything. Your start sit decisions here at Spike Week. I will see you guys tomorrow. And of course, we'll see you guys next week for week 2. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there, you can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.